welcome to another episode of A Funny Taste. That's the first time I've been able to say another. That's so exciting. Welcome to A Funny Taste. I am Kate Roesgen, the person whose last name you had to figure out how to spell in order to find this video. And today I have my guest and commentator, the very funny stand-up comic and a wine expert. Please welcome Mr. CT Adams. Hello, CT.
Hello, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So you are going to be commentating along with me as I am going to be cooking. I will be showcasing a recipe today. You are going to pair some wines with it and hopefully provide some funny commentary along the way when I screw up.
Oh, yes, I will do all of those things if possible. Let's make this fun.
Sweet.
I heard that we're going to do some spaghetti today, so I brought some. I figured we'd do the Super. Oh, we're going to do the Super Mario voice. And we're going to have some spaghetti, and we're going to do some Italian. When you have a spaghetti, you just want a regular red wine, nice and easy. I brought a little Chianti today, Monsanto Chianti, beautiful red, very traditional. Goes good with the spaghetti, both the bolognese and the marinara based. Your choice.
Oh.
Meatballs are always an option, of course, added by the.
Actually, CT, today we're going to be doing spaghetti squash. So no spaghetti.
No spaghetti?
No.
No Super Mario voice? No
Please
eccentric Italian? Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I guess we'll just get serious and just talk about the wine then, Kate Roesgen. Welcome, everybody. I'm CT Adams, the wine jerk. I'm here to help. I'm here to help Kate Roesgen pair up the wine. And what we're trying to do today is get rid of that scariness when it comes to wine.
Picking a wine for a dish is sometimes very intimidating, I guess. People don't want to be seen as trashy. So I'm hoping that you can help me figure out exactly which box of wine would pair best with the meal that I will be making today.
Well, I know that you say that in jest, but let me just say that the boxed wine quality has rapidly improved in the last 5 years. And honestly, yes, there's many boxed wines that are just fine. In addition to $1 million wines, I deal with boxed wines too. I deal with real people too.
Perfect. So today we're going to be making homemade pesto. It's a basil pesto. I actually found a new recipe. I've never made this before, so it's perfect for doing it on camera the first time ever. It's going to be an avocado and basil pesto recipe. First, I've got to start with prepping the spaghetti squash. So first thing you want to do that I've already done is wash everything. You want to wash everything that you cut. I know with the spaghetti squash, we're not eating the outside of it, but anytime you cut something, you're going to take the knife and put it through. You're taking any bacteria that's on the skin of it and cutting it into. That's why you never see anybody from the health department eating at those fruit stands that they have on the corners. For the spaghetti squash, the traditional way of cutting it that most people do is one big lengthwise cut down the middle, and then you roast it face down. We're not going to be doing that today. We are doing something a little bit better.
Oh, did you say better? Prepping. I'm sorry. I was just, most shows I'm on, they say we're going to do something a little bit different.
Nope.
But I just want to know, Kate Rose, we're going to do it. But so are you literally reinventing the squash?
No, see this, okay, this is a new way of cooking it that I've seen a lot of people do. If you look up Martha Stewart's recipe for roasting spaghetti squash, this is how she does it. And a few other people do it this way, but it's a little known way to roast spaghetti squash that is far superior than the standard way, which is why I wanted to do this on the channel. I wanted to showcase this way. But because I am cutting on camera and I am terrified of owning footage of me mutilating myself, I have a cut glove, which I'm going to normalize on this show. Cut gloves are not expensive, but they have little bits of, metal woven in, so you can do this kind of stuff and not hurt yourself. The other thing about spaghetti squash is it's very hard and very difficult to cut, so you need a very sharp knife if you're going to do this safely. So I'm going to cut the spaghetti squash. We're going to actually do it in rings. So we're going to cut it this way. And I can start that if you would like to maybe go into a little wine info.
Ooh, let's do it. Welcome back, everybody, to the wine portion. While Kate is cutting up the squash. Now, mind you, it's very hard, so don't laugh at her struggling with this. Do yourself a favor and be kind to others. I just want to cool it down a little bit here. Boom. Oh, welcome back. All right. First wine we've got today. I'm going to talk about the red wine that I brought earlier. It's a little Chianti Classico from Monsanto. Not the Monsanto that is poisoning us in the world, the actual Monsanto from Italy. Chianti Classico, 100% Sangiovese. Why do we like that wine? I like this wine because easy to drink. It gives the appearance of a very expensive, high dollar wine, you know, but in truth, it's $20, $25. Nice, easy. What we'll call a Tuesday night wine. It's good. This is a Reserva, which means I don't want to get into that stuff just yet. That's what red wine is. Listen. Oh. I want to do a little commentary on the squash cutting. It's amazing
Please do.
here. It's amazing. I want to know, what did you study? Was it physics you studied in college? The appliance of pressure?
Just trying to make them even.
This is great. So spaghetti squash related to other squash, related to the pumpkin. That's amazing.
I did a pretty good job of making those even, actually.
That was a very even. Is that about the thickness you want?
That pretty much. The thickness doesn't matter as much as long as it's even. The thickness will just make the cooking time vary a little bit. But yeah, you want, I guess, like 1.5 inches or so. You always want to try to get those oblong shaped ones if you're going to be doing it this way, which is, like I said, so much better and easier. So the cutting is the hardest part of this. If you do a little bit, it's a couple more cuts than it would be just lengthwise, but the rest of the process is so much easier that that's the only hard part of all of this. I'm done. That's it.
No, I love it. This is the superior way.
It is.
You haven't got on board. What are you? Are you still listening to cassette tapes? Are you still calling people instead of texting them? Get on board the train, Grandpa. So let's talk about a fun, fresh wine. You know what? A wine that is lovely when you're prepping food. How about a little rosé? Uh-oh. You can almost see through the bottle because it's so clear. Rosé. Pink pale color. Almost matches my glasses. Ooh. Now there's many ways to make rosé. You know, they can bleed it off the top of a red wine. They can blend the two wines together. Most rosé that you find is a little Saunier. This is from the, this wine in particular, the Côte de Rosé, is from Gerard Bertrand. You can find this wine literally everywhere. It's in every grocery store in California. It is in every liquor store. Even Costco has it. I admit to you, I do a lot of shopping for my clients at Costco because when you're buying 45 bottles, you want a good deal. Not what we're doing an ad here for Costco or Martha Stewart or what.
Hey.
We're just like, we're unknowing conduits of economy that just continue. Right. Listen, rosé is a great wine because I call it the red drinker's white or the white drinker's red. Okay, I've used it to solve a lot of problems. Bring it. Oh, I don't really like that kind of wine. Just taste it. Here in Southern California, we have 300 days of sunshine. Not trying to brag. I'm just trying to explain my wine choices. You can drink rosé almost every day of the year, and it goes with what you're having. Okay?
It's a very diplomatic wine, it seems.
Very diplomatic wine, and it goes with a lot of. It's very aromatic. It goes with a lot of the fruits and veggies that we're going to be enjoying. If you have that type of diet, vegan diet, or you know what? Honestly, if you just like to eat outside.
That's very true.
So, Kate.
So, with the spaghetti squash,
you look like you're in another spot where you want to talk, and I'm just going
to. I basically, well, I mean, I don't really need to explain. I just kind of, the other nice thing about cutting the rings is when you go to scoop out the seeds, which you want to use that one spoon that's like got too sharp edges that you hate. You know, everyone has that spoon that when you pull it out, it cuts the sides of your mouth. What's that?
Spoon that got caught in the disposal?
Yeah, exactly. Usually that one, it's got little ridges on it just because it's old and shitty and you can't throw it away because it's perfect for these kinds of things. So you just scoop out the seeds, which you can plainly see when you cut the rings. When you're scooping out the middle, you kind of don't know when to stop if you cut it lengthwise, but with these rings, you can kind of just see exactly. And if you're super granola, you can save the seeds and roast them. If not, you can just throw them away. But so another tip I want to give people, when I was looking up recipes online for roasting spaghetti squash, I knew I had already used the Martha Stewart one, but I found another one that was, the link just said the best way to roast spaghetti squash. And so I clicked on it and it gave this kind of a setup and everything, but it didn't do one of the steps that Martha did that I thought really worked well and improved on the spaghetti squash. So the moral of this story is, when you're looking up a recipe on how to make something, don't just look up one recipe. Look up multiple recipes, see what just because someone says it's the best way to do something, that's just the way that they get people to click on their link. What we're going to do now that Martha recommends, we're on a first name basis, salt the spaghetti squash for about 20 minutes. It's going to pull out a lot of the moisture. You can wipe all that away and then you roast it. It'll be a lot nicer and a little bit more, it's not drier necessarily. It's never dry really, but it's just a little less slimy. So I'm going to do that now. Anyway.
Do you think Martha learned that in the joint?
They roast a lot of spaghetti squash, I hear, in jail.
Kate, going back to what you said about looking up more than one recipe, that goes true for wine as well. Never listen to one person.
Oh, good.
Don't listen to just me. There's a points and price guides out there, but they really don't mean anything if the person's palate is not shared by you.
That's very true.
Is this 100-point wine? Well, if it's not 100 points to me, I don't give a shit. I mean, So we've got Martha Stewart's recipe plus somebody else's recipe plus you check. I like that you double checked it. One of my first jobs in Hollywood was researcher. I had to do things like if this clip was going to be on a network show, I would have to actually watch the recipe and then check with a real chef to make sure that we're not doing anything that puts the people who are watching in danger. That's how TV works, boys and girls. I hate to break it to you. It's not reality shows. I mean, it's mostly real. Today's very real. Kate Roesgen is really cooking that squash. I'm really not going to eat any. And, I've just been drinking wine all day. It's terrible.
You've got a rough gig. I really
Do you have
apologize.
another spot? Do you have another? Are you going next? You got something for us?
So this has to sit for about 15, 20 minutes or something to pull out all the moisture. So I was going to, while that's happening, make the pesto.
Oh. You sound like you host a cooking show.
I'm trying. We're going to try this new pesto recipe that I've never done. So it's an avocado-based recipe. So you want to grab one avocado. I have two just because I always like to have a backup. But one thing I will show you about an avocado, I think this one feels a little bit more ripe. One little handy trick. Do you know how to tell if an avocado is ripe or not? Or I guess rotten or not?
I asked the person buying them.
Okay. Well, since I bought this one, you take off this little part here. If that's green, it means that the inside is green. If it's brown, it means that the inside is brown and it's gone bad. So, cut glove.
There you go.
Terrified. I just don't want to own that kind of footage of myself, So this guy, we are just going to do a cut right down the middle.
Growing up in Palm Springs, avocados were there was a plethora of avocados when I was growing up. Neighbors would bring them by in trash bags. There was so many avocados. But then when they went to $4 an avocado, they stopped bringing them over for free.
Yeah. So that's how you remove the pit. Just quick little stab in it. And then
if you're truly granola, you can plant that and then have it sit in your window in your kitchen and get funky in the course of 6 months.
That's true.
Everybody knows that trick. Oh, work that avocado, Kate.
Yeah,
since
one's like really perfect, you can just pull the skin right off and it's a full.
Now you have avocado on the cut glove.
I do, but you know what? You can wash this.
I have a friend who refers to avocado as nature's mayonnaise, which I always thought was an apt description.
Never heard that before, but I guess that works. If that were true, guacamole would be a really kind of gross experience. But
I admit to you, I do not like the avocado. There it is. There it is. I said it. I live in Southern
You don't
California.
like avocado?
Don't like the avocado. Take that, nature.
What do you put on your toast? I don't understand.
I don't eat toast.
You
either.
can't go out for brunch.
I did have to give up bread as part of my LA connect. You always have to do a few things that are douchebaggy LA in order to But there's always a few things you don't do. Like I don't have a condo in Topanga or a job, you know. Just
Well, I think not having job is a pretty LA thing, but
oh, it feels so good. This past year, nobody's looked down upon me. I've been like friends with everybody. I'm afraid when we go back to real comedy, though, it'll be like we were all friends at camp, and then you go back to school, and then they're not friends with you anymore. They don't even say hi. And you're like, but at camp we had so much fun. We cooked that avocado toast with Kate Roesgen.
see, I never went to camp, so I just hated those people all the time. Okay,
Wow, that took a bizarre turn.
so cashews are going to be in the pesto. That's what the recipe calls for. Usually you use pine nuts, but those are insanely expensive. And the recipe said cashews, so we're doing that.
Okay.
They've got cashews.
So cashews are the vegan alternative to pine nuts. Okay.
I guess so. I don't know.
Like
just
the
this
cashew
recipe.
cheese. I get it. I get it.
So it's a fourth a cup of cashews, 1 whole avocado. Boop.
Ooh.
Oh gosh.
Oh my goodness.
3 cloves of garlic. Since it was only called for 3, I of course found the 3 largest cloves that I could find. We need 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm using avocado oil just to, keep it consistent. So 1.
Very nice. Avocado oil that you got at Trader Joe's, I assume?
Costco, actually.
Oh, another ad for Costco. We're the unknowing Costcodians.
Well, it's a good place to go to buy the really expensive, like large quantities of things that you usually buy.
They've made it happen. I can't believe it, man. I remember Costco in the 90s. Oops. Am I supposed to tell everybody that? 80, in the 90s, it was crazy because they only sold, I remember they sold Hyundais, 2 Hyundais for like $25,000 or something. It was hilarious.
A 2-pack?
Yeah, it was a 2-pack of Hyundais, and I thought that's hilarious because one of them was like 17,000, so 2 for 25 seemed like a good deal. They used to have bikes that you could ride around the warehouse floor, but then that didn't last too long because, as you know, the 90s are all about safety.
Right.
Mostly after the lawsuits. So you added the avocado.
This is the basil. So basil usually comes in something about like this. You don't have to like pull off all the little stem part. You basically don't want the trunk of it. So you'll just kind of pull off, and then these are fine. And then again, it says right here to wash before use. So
Always wash before. We
Gotta wash
highly
it
advocate wash before use. Yes. Now I have a question for you. Do you ever pronounce it basil?
no.
Like Basil Fawlty from Fawlty Towers is a famous comedic character, but I always laugh at people who mispronounce, the ones that aren't supposed to be mispronounced. Obviously we're talking about wine here. We have stuff mispronounced all the time. Some kid whose name was Basil was like, no, it's pronounced Basil. And then okay, everybody just believed it, and Well, enough of that. They say if you can't be funny, at least be interesting. So let's get interesting. Well, we're going to add a little lemon, of course.
Yes, I also just stuffed in some spinach.
Spinach?
And then it says 2 tablespoons of lemon, but that's also the equivalency of 1 lemon squeezed.
Always through the strainer to avoid the seeds because we don't want to add bitterness.
That doesn't look. That's not the texture I'm going for. Really. So we'll just squeeze all of this.
I like it. Oh,
well,
my goodness.
That shot across my kitchen. That'll be fun later. Okay.
Look at the lemon. Look at those forearms on Kate just squeezing the shit out of that poor lemon. When they're like, you can't get blood from a turnip, I'm like, you've never cooked with Kate Roesgen.
Cooking is not for the weak.
That's right. Not on this show. My goodness, y'all. How about we talk about another wine, Kate Roesgen? You ready for it?
Do it. I'm just going to add a little salt and pepper, and then I'm actually going to need to blend this. So I'm going to shut off my microphone, and you are going to be in charge of the show.
Hey. Okay. Well, hello, Kate Roesgen's audience. What's up? It's me, CT Adams. You know you can trust me. I always got your best interest in mind. Boom. I want to talk about Riesling today, Trimbach. Riesling gets a bad rap because people think of it as just a one-dimensional sweet wine. But I got to tell you, much like the ingredients in today's recipe. Riesling runs the gambit. I really like dry Riesling. As a matter of fact, I have some German dry Riesling from the Falls region that I think would be absolutely perfect for this dish. I did not bring it because the label was boring. There you go. I'm trying to make it a show here. It's the Rose Gin Show. Don't you just love the name Rose Gin? Like that's how I first met Kate. I thought she was the owner of the Rose Gin Company, but then no, it sounds the same. Anywho, Riesling wine is grown in a lot of places, France, Germany, all around the world. Try to find a dry Riesling. You're really going to find it to be fun and enjoyable, much like me. When you look at this, you're not impressed. But then when you hear it, you're really not impressed. So I understand what it means to be misrepresented in this world. Kate's looking at me like, what are you talking about now that you should save this for your podcast? And I'm like, let me tell you something about the 5G towers. All right, back to our show and cooking. Behold, friends, can you see this?
Yes.
Whammo, some
CHABLIS.
Chablis. Chablis, as we like to call it, Chablis. In the 70s, they sold, in the 80s, and even to now, they sold giant jug wines, like Gallo jug wines that just said Chablis on it. And so a whole generation grew up thinking that cheap white wine was called Chablis, when in fact, Chablis is a very expensive white wine made in France. It can only come from the area known as Chablis. Very
Oh, like,
limited vineyard space. It's really Chardonnay. Chardonnay is what I want to talk about. Okay. Most Chardonnay is not very good. There it is. I said it. I'm sorry. Let's go with a little Chardonnay history, shall we? Most Chardonnay in California goes through what's called malolactic fermentation. That's the process in which the malic acids become lactic acids, and it makes the wine smoother, creamier, softer, buttier, whatever you want to make it up. But the before wines are much more tart and crisp. That's what Chablis is like. That's the style. That's how it works. But here in America, we've switched it up just a little bit. But that's what we do. Brought a California Chardonnay too.
I've
Ooh,
I actually I knew most of what you were saying because I watched your videos. I went to the winejerk.com last night and looked up I love the little video, especially the ones about wine tasting are very helpful. Like wine tasting can be extremely intimidating. It's very informative. They're very quick little videos, but they're very much you feel like you could at least fake it until you make it after you watch a 2-3 minute video.
my number one rule for wine is if you like it, drink it. And if you don't like it, don't drink it. That you'd be amazed at how many people can't trust themselves because they're afraid because of societal pressures
Yep.
on just wine. I mean, we know that it's for everything in this world, but even in wine, it's so amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like my whole drink what you like what you drink. Don't drink white Zinfandel. There it is. Those are my three rules for wine bliss. It makes it easy. The reason why does CT Adams hate white Zinfandel so much? You might ask.
Because you have taste buds?
Because I have taste buds. That's correct. Actually, white Zinfandel started off as an accident. It was a stuck fermentation by Bob Trinchero. He didn't know what to do with it. He just was like, "I'll bottle it. Somebody from Missouri will buy it." And then boom, it became his number one seller. Made him a millionaire many times over. There you go. Most great, most great inventions are accidents.
And then some other inventions are also accidents.
And then
Like yeah. So I don't know if you'll be able to really see you can kind of see the beads of moisture on that.
Give us a little more angle right there.
One thing, well, here's what I'm going to do.
Oh, there we go.
I'm going to take a paper towel.
Oh.
Bam. Look at all that. So much
So that
water.
comes from salting both sides for 15 to 20 minutes to pull that moisture out.
Yep.
This is also a good experiment for the people who don't think that salty foods make you thirsty.
Exactly.
Like you.
This is what it does. But we love salt.
So, do we love salt? Ooh.
Yeah, you can see how sopping wet this
butter.
is. And then we'll do
the guy that invented salt, huh? It was discovered, not invented. All right, I'm just saying. We don't understand, right? Like we invented books, but we discovered the fire with which to burn them. You know what I mean? Like you got to understand the difference between discovery and invention. So now we are, polishing the rims on our squash car.
Just getting all of this water off of here and wiping it off of the parchment. And then just Gonna place it back down. Oh, that's the end. And then we're gonna take our trusty oil and we're gonna get these ready for the oven. So, that's a lot of oil. And just cover these. You always want to cover these in oil so that they don't get too dry in the oven. I know that goes against the whole slippery stuff we just took out, but this is how you get it like kind of caramelized and really roasted. You want to make sure that you get all the sides of it. These are all just things that I picked up from watching like other cooking shows and.
Oh, you don't say that. You act like these are all original thoughts, okay? If
Oh yeah.
Roesgen thought of that shit.
I have found in my personal professional experience, being that this is my second episode of my show.
Oh, I'm so glad you got picked up for a second episode, Kate. I was worried. I was worried.
By picked up, you mean that YouTube didn't flag and take down my last one?
That's exactly right. Right? They're like that. Is that really cauliflower pizza?
I didn't have any Taylor Swift songs playing in the background, so they didn't shut me down.
Hilarious? You just put the Disney on in the background, and then you just get flagged instantly. That's how. Sometimes I do that if I want a little bit of action on some of my videos.
Yeah. It got reported. I've made it.
Oh, cancel culture's coming for me, y'all. They're not having it. They're not having it. Okay, so while Kate salts and peppers these, let's talk about Chardonnay a little bit more, okay? I know I got a little off track there, okay? So we talked about Chablis. This is a little bit of some Bon Climat. Ooh, Santa Maria Valley Chardonnay from Bien Vineyard. One of my favorite California Chardonnays. Ooh, it's so good. But sure, Chardonnay is good. But what about champagne, Christopher? Mr. CT Adams, what about champagne? And I say to you, Chardonnay is in champagne. Champagne is a blend of Pinot Noir and a grape called Pinot Meunier. That's the traditional blend. Okay? Okay, so we're salted, we're peppered.
We're oiled.
Doopy-doo. Forgot the oil. Doopy-doopy-doopy.
This is going to go in the oven, 400 degrees for, again, depending on the thickness of how thick you cut the rings, 30 to 40 minutes. And then Martha doesn't say to do this, but somebody else does. And I like this method to flip halfway through just to make sure that it's even cooking. This is why you combine recipes. So I'm going to put this in the oven.
Let's do some non-copyrighted music here. Shall we? Dun, 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 dun.
Look how fast that was.
Well, welcome back, Kate. It's been 35 or 40 minutes. It's so nice to see you. Wow, look at that spaghetti squash.
Isn't this amazing?
My mouth is agape.
So this is what they look like when they come out. This was about 40 minutes in the oven. Again, I flipped them halfway. So the part where this now becomes far superior to the other method is that the other way you kind of got to like scrape with a fork for half an hour to get all the stuff out. This,
you just stick your thumb right up in there, don't you?
This comes right off. The skin just slides right off.
My goodness.
Gotta get it all the way around. Ah, so perfect.
Skin comes right off.
Right off.
Just like the slap chop guy said it would.
And so now you have, this is all like one really long piece. It's not a bunch of little shreds. It's much longer pieces of spaghetti squash.
Hey, you know what would go good on this is like some pesto sauce.
Oh shit, I should have thought of that. Okay.
I'm watching this and I'm like, wow, this looks like real food. Like you could probably eat this and be okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to taste like spaghetti.
Oh, just stick your thumb right in, girl. Jesus Christ, what are you doing there?
It's nice and soft. I'm telling you, the other way is a nightmare.
I tell you what, I remember working at restaurants, and then there'd be some poor prep cook back there just shredding with the fork for hours before.
I should have
Because
forced you to do it the other way to show how
the
awful it is.
show, and I'd be like this. It's still a terrible method. I've just been swiping down all day. It's
Ugh,
terrible.
so perfect.
Okay, that actually looks really good. And you know what? That is much more appealing, I would say, than the tiny little. They're almost like giant pieces of rice when you do it the other way. Oh, look at his teeth
Yes,
got through.
exactly. They're just big enough to get stuck in between your teeth when they're that size, you know?
Oh, hey, you want to talk about getting stuff stuck in your teeth? How much time do you got, Kate Roesgen?
I mean, that really was what I wanted this show to be all about. This was just a really long con to get to deep,
Right,
intimate conversations with
right.
comics about getting
Oh,
food.
I call it the black pepper. My pepper catcher is over here on this side, and then my spinach catcher is over here on this side. Oh, look at this pesto you made 35 or 40 minutes ago. I wanted it fresh.
Remember back all the way back before the spaghetti squash went into the oven?
So, well, you know, we've been calling the pre-COVID times. I've been calling that the Great Before. They used to
Yes,
do, oh, in the Great Before, I would be at your house talking smack to your face about this. And what we're missing by not doing this in person is the smells,
that's true.
because the smells is what makes us human. You know, the when you break open those leaves and you smell that basil for the first time, it really makes everything in the kitchen brighter. I don't know how the spaghetti squash smells when you take it out of the oven because
It's not really that aromatic, honestly.
you're like, oh man, that guy's like the spaghetti squash of comedy. He changed the game, but he's not very aromatic.
Ah, I love the color of this.
Look at it. It looks
I'm
like the Seattle Sonics logo from the
very
90s.
excited about this pesto
My
recipe
goodness.
that I've never tried because it looks very creamy.
So avocado
Smells
and
very
pesto spaghetti squash.
good.
Are you making it more beautiful?
I'm trying. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of in the home stretch here.
No, I'm watching. Oh, I see. I see. I see. You know
Just
what
getting
though?
there.
I appreciate the lack of pine nuts and the use of cashews. I find that to be. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah. Are you not a pine nut fan?
I do not like the pine nuts. That comes from years of working in fine dining, I believe. I also
Ah.
cannot stand sand dabs or personal Caesar salads. Obviously, I do comedy now, but when I used to be fully in the wine game, man, I would get calls at all hours of the night because people are around the world doing business. Like, oh, I'm at the Australian Open. I'm about to go to dinner. I'm like, where are you? I'm in the bathroom at the stall. I got the wine list right here. Which one's good? And they're reading it off to me, and I'm like, don't order that. Are you gonna have a steak? Okay, order that, but with a decanter. Ooh, ooh. All right, I'm gonna see you when I get back to the States.
So the decanter you would only do for
Oh,
certain wines?
well, the decanter is to air wine out. Just like in jokes, you want to give a little air to your wine. Put a little space in there. Um, if it's a red wine, it generally helps. White wines generally open up pretty quick compared to the aromatics and the consideration of red wines. So, like if you were making this dish right here and you found some red wine you like, I would recommend a lighter red wine with this. Okay, Dolce d'Alba or Dolcetto d'Alba, excuse me, Dolce. What am I saying here? I'm messing it up. Dolcetto d'Alba, maybe a light Pinot Noir if you could find one that you really liked. Otherwise, a nice rosé. Of course, the white wines we talked about, and of course, champagne. What I found in my way is champagne literally goes with everything
Huh.
except for soup. But champagne it's like the only wine I would serve with sushi. It goes with everything. I've had fine wine with burgers. Champagne goes with everything. So
I
look
just
at
said
this
that
beautiful
champagne
table.
goes with everything except for funerals.
Well, no, I mean it depends on who died. Really.
That's true.
They say treat others as you want to be treated, and if you shit on me all your life, then when you die, you better believe I'm enjoying that glass. I'm gonna. It's called the Rush Limbaugh clause.
Oh, that was a fun day, wasn't it?
But
Um,
I haven't sold that much wine in a long time. I was getting calls left and right. Man, listen, I need a big bottle of champagne. I need it to be really French too. Also, here's another tip, right? If your recipe calls for white wine and you don't want to open a bottle of white wine, I use vermouth. You have some vermouth in
Huh.
the house for making martinis, maybe, and then that vermouth will stay much longer than white wine will, and you can cook with it for a long time. So a
Huh.
lot of the chefs, and we use vermouth instead of white wine, gives the same effect, but it doesn't go bad. Oh,
Good to
okay, I can't give all these out for free now. Whoa.
Okay, so I now would like you to explain to me the CTA comedy wine. What are the notes? What are the bouquets? Who are your influences?
My influences are probably the usual, Bill Hicks, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, obviously. But for me, a lot of women too. Elaine Boozler was so funny in the '90s when Joan Rivers had her show, the Joan Rivers show. That was very funny too. Um, there's so many. Where do you start? You know,
Well,
Louis Anderson.
where did you start? What did you start?
Oh, I started comedy right here in Los Angeles. I was working in the liquor business, and I was very unhappy. I had tried it like 10 years ago.
Mm.
I would get so nervous, and I had so many internal demons and like PTSD and anxiety issues that I couldn't do it. I didn't understand how to do it. I didn't know how to make myself better at it, and I just got frustrated because I couldn't do it right. So I put it on the back burner, and I just got really good at wine and other stuff. Stopped working in TV. Then a few years ago, I bit the bullet. I took a class just so that I would know people. But it wasn't a class like here's how to do comedy. It was more of like a writers group, and I just
Oh,
happened to be in it. So the good news was that they allowed beginners in there. The better news was that it was a lot of people who were taking the class for the fourth, fifth, sixth time, and it was
oh,
much more of like a comedy writers group where we work on your 5 minutes and explain. Just do your own thing. It was the first time I'd ever got on stage and somebody said, "What you say is funny. You should keep doing it." And that was it. After that, I was like, "Great, this is what I want to do. I don't want to," because I used to travel for my job in wine and travel around and have to give the spiel about wine or about the product. I was selling brandy at the time, um, and so I had like my hour long spiel. I had written jokes in between, and I realized that what I really wanted to do was just remove the brandy parts and then just tell the jokes. And
yeah.
so that was my big moment, was like that. And now here I am, a few years later, and no savings, no plan, no following, no fans, no jokes really to speak of. Just a nice background that was a gift, and this show
Living
is
the
now
dream.
the
Living.
highlight of my resume.
It kind of sounds like when you took that class, somebody did to you what you do with wine. Like they were just like, no, if you like this, if you these jokes are funny, you should keep going with this, as opposed to like it wasn't a class that was set up to like tell you how to think and stuff. It was more just like to help you figure out what
Yeah.
you like and what you are good at and what you can do.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel that way for everything, whether it's food, wine, comedy, whatever it is. There's something out there for you. But it doesn't mean that it's what the man wants to sell you. There's
Yes.
such a difference between the enjoyment of art and then the business of art. And that goes for food as well.
I'm gonna try
Avo-
this.
Avocado pesto spaghetti squash. That's a lot of verbiage. Here we go.
Wow.
Oh, you
That
think
pesto
so?
is really good. Holy shit. That pesto is really good.
I
All
mean,
right. I'm throwing out my other pesto recipe. This is really, really good.
yeah. Oh, get rid of it. Get out with the old, in with the new. It's a new year.
Perfect amount of garlic,
Three
perfect
large
amount of
cloves.
basil. Good. Yeah, the bouquet of garlic is very, very well balanced. The creaminess of the avocado and the cashews. Yep, that's a winner.
Do the
I'm glad.
cashews blend all the way, or are they little crunchy bits?
No, they blended all the way. I did when I washed them, because again, you wash everything. I washed the cashews in kind of warmer water, which does kind of soften them up a
Soften
little
them up.
bit.
Sure, sure.
But I don't really get any texture off of them. Plus the spaghetti squash has a little bit of a crunch texture to it. That's another thing that makes it different from regular spaghetti. It does have a little bit of a crunch because it is a vegetable. But this is really good. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited too. My goodness, I didn't know that getting out of the gourd could be so much fun.
Mm.
Okay, Rosen, that looks like a lovely meal that I will never take a bite of. I cannot taste it from here. Ooh.
I'm so glad. I'm glad. As long as you're drunk enough, that's all I care about.
I'm doing my best.
All right, CT, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote? Where can we find you? Where can we find your wine info, your comedy info, all that kind of stuff?
Very well. Hello, everybody. You can find me at thewinejerk.com. And for comedy, God knows why after this episode, ctacomedy.com. I'm on Instagram at thewinejerk at CTA Comedy, or you can just ask Kate to send me an email. There you go. Thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you so much for coming and for all of your wisdom and commentary. And I'm sorry you don't like avocados because this is fucking great.
My loss.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the commercial for next episode. Next episode, I'm going to not be in charge. It's going to be so nice. Keith Graber, who is a professional chef, is going to be showing us both how to make something that I don't even know how to make. So that'll be fun.
Let's hope he doesn't watch this episode and lose heart.
I forbid any future guests from watching anything. I don't want them to know. You're locked in. You can't back out. Keith, you can't back out.
Right.
All right.
Locked in a kitchen with Keith Graber.
Perfect. I'll have to get a background made.
That's funny. All right.
Hey, thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
On the next episode of A Funny Taste.
Mr. Keith Graber, or should I say Chef Keith Graber? But you are an actual chef, right?
I'm an actual chef. I'm a functioning chef. Yeah. But I've been cooking for over 20 years, almost 25. You know what? Let's not talk about age. Restaurants, catering companies. I own my own catering company. And for the last 7 years, I've been doing private chef work. If you're rich and bougie, or if you're poor and you just want to spend all that stimulus money, you hire this guy.
You're actually going to be teaching me. You're going to be instructing me this time. And I always buy this thinking that I'm going to make something amazing. But it looks so enticing in the store that I always grab it.
So you could do something with a roasted red pepper sauce.
Ooh, that roasted red pepper right there. That sounds really good. Well, now I'm really excited. So
yeah, me too. I have no idea what we're making, but it's going to be fun either way.
But this is the one show where that's actually kind of not my responsibility. This is all up.
Yeah.